Good evening, council, staff, and visitors. Thank you for joining us for the May 7th, 2026 regular meeting of the Fair Oaks Ranch City Council. The time is 6:30 p.m. and we'll begin with the roll call. When I call your name, please say here or present. Mayor Maxton.
Here.
Councilmember Stroop.
Here.
Councilmember Roden.
Here.
Councilmember Olvera.
Here.
Councilmember Pearson.
Here.
Councilmember Parker.
Here.
And Councilmember Swearick.
Here.
With all members present, a quorum is declared.
Thank you, Amanda. Would everybody please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That sounded great. Thank you. A reminder to everybody that's here at the meeting tonight, we do live broadcast this meeting. Would like to welcome everybody that's joining us here as part of the council chambers, but also would like to welcome all those that are joining us as part of the live broadcast. For the individuals that are here in the room, if you do get an opportunity to speak as part of the meeting tonight, I'd ask that all comments be made from the microphone up here at the podium and not from the chairs from where you're sitting in. The reason for that is the individuals that are joining us by live broadcast cannot hear the comments if you speak from your seats. And if you do get an opportunity to speak tonight as part of the meeting, I'd ask that all individuals please introduce yourself. And if you're a resident, please state if you're a resident of Fair Oaks Ranch or not. And if you're here with an organization that's part of the council meeting tonight, which organization that you are from. And with that, we'll move on to citizens to be heard. We did have one individual sign up as part of citizens to be heard. And as a reminder for those that speak as part of citizens to be heard, if you talk about an item that is not on the agenda, council will not be able to discuss it tonight. And I also ask when you speak, please limit your comments to 5 minutes. And Mr. Depke.
I'll just say I'm willing to defer in case there's some bedtimes that need to be met until the subject
We have
comes
a
up.
few, you can tell. Did you want to wait until the strategic plan? Okay. Chris was the only individual that signed up as part of citizens to be heard. Is there anybody else here tonight that did not get an opportunity to sign up that would like to speak? All right, with that, we'll move on to the presentations tonight. And we've got 5 presentations. And I get to start off by recognizing Police Week and Public Works Week. And Grant, would you and Steve going to join you too? Yes, sir. 2 of the organizations, it's the 2 largest organizations is here as part of the city staff. But as I was going through it, it's probably the 2 organizations that really have the most contact with our residents. And the largest organizations too, correct? Yep. So the week of May 17th through May 23rd is recognized as Public Works Professional Week. And this week gives us the opportunity to recognize and thank the men and women who work every day behind the scenes to provide the essential services that keep our communities safe, functional, and moving forward. And as part of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch's Public Works, it encompasses a wide range of responsibilities. It's our city water and wastewater utilities, our maintenance operations, our building codes, our code compliance, our environmental programs, our infrastructure inspections, engineering services, GIS technology, project management, and planning services for the city. As residents, we do experience the results of their hard work every day, and we see it through our superior rated water system, our high quality wastewater utility, and the high quality roads that we drive on throughout our city, over 50 miles of roadways within the city. However, the responsibilities this team takes on extends far beyond what most people see each day and plays a critical role in ensuring that Fair Oaks Ranch remains a high-quality community today and for future generations. And the more that I learn about what this team accomplishes, the more amazed I am by the extraordinary work and the dedication in which they perform it, the professionalism that they demonstrate, and a true spirit of service that they provide to our community. They maintain and operate our systems each day, continually improving infrastructure, service delivery, perform emergency repairs when issues arise, and respond quickly during emergency conditions to help protect our residents and our community. Their work touches nearly every aspect of daily life here in Fair Oaks Ranch. And honestly, I could stand up here and speak about the Public Works Department for over an hour and all the significant accomplishments that they achieve. But tonight I won't do that to you. But I do want everyone to know that their impact on our city goes far beyond what most people could ever imagine. We honestly would not be the city we are today without the dedication and the expertise and the accomplishments of this team. Tonight I want to thank all of our public works professionals for their hard work and their commitment and continued service to our community. And I'd also like to encourage all of our residents to reach out to our public works employees the week of May 17th. We see them in their work trucks driving around all the city all the time. For those guys, just wave as they drive by. And if you get an opportunity, please come up to City Hall and thank them. What I failed to do when I started this was to introduce Grant Watanabe, who is the Director of Public Works, and Steve Freed, who I guess the Deputy for Public Works? Assistant Director. But these are the two guys that really stand at the top and make sure that all the good things happen for our city. And so as part of this, we did put together a proclamation for you that we'd like to present. In the city of Fair Oaks Ranch, whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructures, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustain and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and a well-being of the people. And whereas these infrastructures, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public work professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, and who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas it is in the public interest for the citizens, our civic leaders, and children in the city of Fair Oaks Ranch to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and the public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2026 marks the 66th annual Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association. Now and therefore, the City Council of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch does hereby designate the week of May 17th through May 23rd as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, our engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing our quality of life. And if we could we give them a round of applause, please? Here you go, Grant. You can hold on to it. Nope, I do not. You're the man of the hour. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mayor.
Do you want to say anything?
Thank you.
Too humble, honestly. And when I said that, I could stand up here for an hour and talk about what they do, and that is honestly truthful, because the responsibilities that fall on these two individuals as part of our city is enormous. And we really owe them a lot for what they do every day, and everybody within the Public Works Department. So thanks, Grant and Steve. Manny, would you mind joining me, please? So, Manny Casas, our lieutenant for the Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department. Been here 2 or 3 months?
Yeah, like 2 hours. About 6, 7 months now. So.
And then Chief ran off and left you in charge.
He's like, here you go, go on vacation.
I think everybody knows we have a phenomenal police department. And did you want the other officers to join you up there?
Please. Please, they don't mind.
National Police Week is observed this year from May 10th through May 16th. And this week provides an opportunity for us to recognize the courage and the professionalism, dedication of law enforcement officers who serve and protect our community each and every day. In our city, our police department is committed not only to public safety, but also to build strong relationships within the community. Our officers place a strong emphasis on community engagement and are working hard to break the barriers between the police and our residents. This approach that they utilize has built a lot of trust and strengthened the communications and created a meaningful partnership between our officers and all of the residents that they serve. And I consistently receive messages from residents expressing appreciation for the dedicated and the personable work of our officers. In fact, Corporal Griffiths, just this week, we got an email reference of what you had done within our community. Whether responding to emergencies, assisting residents, supporting community events, or simply taking the time to build relationships, our officers continue to make a positive and a lasting impact within our community. Those relationships have a direct impact on the strength and the safety of our community. Residents know their officers, officers know their neighborhoods, and together they help maintain the welcoming environment that makes Fair Oaks Ranch such a special place to live in. Their commitment to safety has resulted in Fair Oaks Ranch being named the 5th safest city in Texas this year, and the safest city in the greater San Antonio area. With 4 patrols on duty 24 hours a day when permitted, their response times to calls are within 3 minutes throughout the city, and for emergency response, under 2 minutes. They are always the first responders on scene and are consistently awarded life-saving medals for saving the lives of our residents. Additionally, the city provides school resource officers to 2 of the elementary schools that are located within Fair Oaks Ranch. These officers help provide a safe learning environment while also building positive relationships with students, teacher, staff, and parents. Their presence serves as both a source of protection and a reminder to our children that law enforcement is here to serve, support, and guide the community. We have a highly competent, professional, and effective police department here in Fair Oaks Ranch. And on behalf of the council, the residents, and city staff, I want to thank you all for your service and your continued commitment to our residents. So thank you all very much. And I have a proclamation that I'd like to present to y'all from the city of Fair Oaks Ranch. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States had designated May 15th, 2026 as Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the week in which it falls is Police Week. And whereas the members of the Fair Oaks Ranch Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Fair Oaks Ranch. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the problems, the duties, and responsibilities of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, and by protecting them against violence or disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression or intimidation. And whereas the police department of the city of Fair Oaks Ranch has grown to be a modern and scientific law enforcement agency with unceasingly provides a vital public service. And now and therefore, the City Council of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch calls upon all citizens of the City of Fair Oaks Ranch and upon all patriotic civil and educational organizations to observe the week of May 10th through the 16th as Police Week with appropriate ceremonies in which all of our people may join in commemorating peace officers, past and present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in doing so have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and the security of all citizens. We further call upon all citizens of Fair Oaks Ranch to observe May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day, to honor those peace officers who through their courage, deeds, lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of their duties. So thank you all very much. And Manny, I'll turn it over to you for the other three presentations.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mayor.
I didn't ask y'all if y'all wanted to say anything. Are you sure? No, you're all right.
Thank you, Mayor. City, appreciate everybody's support. It means a lot from the guys. Thank you. Well, good evening, Mayor, City Council. I am Lieutenant Manny Casas with your Police Department. Today, we're proud to recognize Corporal Hayden Griffiths for 5 years of dedicated service to the City of Fair Oaks Ranch. Since joining us in 2021, Corporal Griffiths has demonstrated steady professionalism and dedication, earning promotion to Corporal in 2024 and continuing to invest in his development. He also maintains an intermediate peace officer certification, reflecting his ongoing commitment to the profession. He enables our philosophy, we go first, stepping up both community and for his fellow officers. From supporting disaster response efforts to training the next generation as an FTO, his impact is felt across his department. Corporal Griffiths also leads through service by engaging with our community and building trust through our department's one-by-one approach. He exemplifies the city core values, community through his service and engagement, collaboration through his teamwork and mentorship, and ownership through his initiative and commitment to excellence. Hayden, thank you for your dedication, your leadership, and your 5 years of service. Congratulations on this well-earned milestone, 5 years. Went by himself, we're together? Okay. All right, Officer Iris Cabas. Today, we are also proud to recognize Officer Iris Cabas for 5 years of service, dedication to the City of Fair Oaks Ranch. Since joining us in 2021, Officer Cabas has consistently demonstrated professionalism, compassion, and a deep commitment to our community. She holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from the University of Texas, San Antonio, and maintains her intermediate peace officer certification, reflecting her continued dedication to growth. She leads with empathy and represents our We Go First philosophy every day. Her impact is especially strong with our youth, as she served as a school resource officer in years 23 through 25 and has played a huge role with our junior police academy. Officer Cabas has excelled in critical moments from medical emergencies to conflict resolution. Beyond enforcement, she strengthens our department through teamwork, her morale, and her community engagement. Officer Cabas demonstrates the city core values: community through her compassion, connection with residents; collaboration through her support and co-workers with the public safety partners; and ownership through initiative and pride in her work. Iris, thank you for your heart, your professionalism, and 5 years of dedication. Congratulations on this well-deserved milestone. Just keep going, Mayor, for the next
Sure.
one. All right. Well, we do have an employee of the court announcement. Although he could not be here with us tonight, it is my pleasure to recognize Officer Michael De Hoyos as the City of Fair Oaks Ranch Employee of the second quarter for 2026. Officer De Hoyos has exemplified our core values through both daily service and critical leadership. Most notably, his quick response and immediate CPR in emergency helped save a life, demonstrating calm, decisive action when it mattered the most. He also took initiative beyond the call and partnered with UT Health to bring Narcan and training to our department, strengthening our overall readiness. Through community engagement and teamwork, he continues to build trust and represents the very best of the ranch. Please join me in congratulating Officer Michael De Hoyos as our employee of the second quarter.
And that's
Thank you.
employee of the quarter for the city staff, not just the police department.
Yes, sir, that's correct for the city.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Well, that completes the presentations that we had on the agenda for tonight. We do have one item under consent, which is the approval of the April 16th, 2026 regular city council meeting minutes. Is there any council member that would like to remove this from consent to consideration? With that, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Keith, and a second?
Second.
Emily? All in favor of approval of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. With that, we'll move on to the first of the 3 consideration items that we have tonight. The first is the consideration and the possible action approving a resolution accepting a donation of a bronze war memorial statue from Marianne Caraselli.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Sorry, Emily, you're so far. Usually you're right here. I apologize, it threw me for a loop. Sorry, Carol Van Zandt, Assistant City Manager. For your consideration, as the mayor noted, tonight is the acceptance of a bronze statue honoring the men and women who have served the United States Armed Forces. The item starts on page 10 of your agenda packet with the statue depiction on page 12 along with this screen right here. A little bit of background information. The Peachtree site was established in 1990 to honor our deployed military personnel during Operation Desert Storm and has since served as a longstanding community gathering place for events recognizing our veterans and active service members. Miss Marianne Caraselli is a Fair Oaks Ranch resident with more than 30 years of experience as a sculptor. Her works highlight peace and unity. They are found in various institutions and numerous cities throughout the nation, including the Burney Library. and is held by private collections such as Red McCombs, Burt Reynolds, Wayne Newton, and Pat Summerall. Her donation of the statue is 24 inches tall on a 40-inch pedestal, sorry. The total donation value is $4,200, which does include the statue, the granite base, the pedestal, and installation of the statue. The proposed location is at the Peace Tree. Placing it at the Peace Tree will provide a permanent acknowledgement to our U.S. service members and support community events honoring the military. The Fair Oaks Ranch Homeowners Association has offered to host the unveiling on June 29th during their Veterans and Military Honor Breakfast, reflecting the continued partnership between the city and FORA. Lastly, staff does recommend approval of accepting this donation as there is no fiscal impact on ongoing maintenance burden to the city, and it enhances an existing commemorative site while providing lasting cultural and civic value. Mrs. Caroselli extends her apologies. She was unable to attend our meeting tonight, and she did ask Dee Dee Benitez to attend in her place in case you had any questions regarding the statue. So we are happy to answer that if you have any, and we hope you will accept the bronze statue.
Is there a picture of it in, there it is. Any questions from council? It's pretty straightforward. All good? Any questions from anyone here tonight? With that, can I get a motion to approve a resolution accepting a donation of a bronze statue from Mary Ann Caroselli and authorize the city manager to execute all applicable documents?
So moved.
From Scott?
Second.
From Jonathan? Any other discussion from council?
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Beautiful.
With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thanks. Our second consideration item tonight is the consideration and possible action approving a resolution authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement with the city of Bernie for the shared pipeline project. Okay, Grant, you're going to describe this for us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Grant Watanabe, Public Works Director, and as the Mayor mentioned, tonight I'm presenting an interlocal agreement with the City of Bernie for a shared pipeline project. For reference, this agenda item starts on page 15, and the presentation starts on page 24 of the agenda packet. So starting with a little background, back in June of 22, Bernie purchased 10 acres near the northern curve of Ammon Road for construction of a water plant. Then in June of 25, our city purchased approximately 2.9 acres from the city of Bernie for construction of an elevated storage tank. Now, both cities intend to take delivery of purchased water from GBRA, the Guadalupe Branco River Authority, at their respective sites, and staff from both cities have been in discussion about the shared pipeline project for about the past 2 years. So the existing GBRA pipeline runs along the east-west leg of Ammon Road and generally follows Rolling Acres Trail before exiting the city limits to the west. This project will install approximately 5,000 linear feet of 16-inch water main from the Ammon Road southern curve to the shared site near the northern curve. The pipe will be sized to support the water supply needs of both cities. Utility easements have already been acquired by GBRA last year, and Bernie is to serve as the lead design, acquisition, and construction agent. The estimated cost for this project is $2.2 million. Now, under the proposed interlocal agreement, the city and Bernie will split the cost of shared infrastructure, 31% for Fair Oaks Ranch and 69% for the city of Bernie. This split was calculated based on the amount of water that each city plans to take from the shared pipeline, with Bernie taking quite a bit more than Fair Oaks Ranch. The estimated cost, again, was $2.2 million, and of that, the city share is approximately $682,000. In addition to that, there's approximately $60,000 in non-shared costs, which are limited to a redesign of a certain portion of the pipeline as well as encasement of that water main, where the new Ammon Road southern curve will cross over the pipeline. Under the ILA, Bernie will manage all aspects of the project, including design, acquisition, and construction, and will invoice the city for actual costs on a quarterly basis. Either party may terminate the agreement within 30 days of receiving the final bids, and upon project completion, the new main will be dedicated to and maintained by GBRA. Moving on to benefits to citizens. So this project aligns with priority 3.1 of the strategic plan to enhance and ensure continuity of reliable water resources. It enables the delivery of water to the northern part of our city to enhance pressure zone A and manage anticipated growth. I want to mention that staff is currently working with GBRA to determine if there will be adequate pressure into the new pipeline to deliver water directly into the elevated storage tank, or if the future pump station is still needed at the elevated storage tank site as envisioned in our water and wastewater master plan. Now, if there is adequate pressure, we may be able to take delivery of water sooner than planned by incorporating some improvements, some delivery point improvements to the elevated storage tank project. And then lastly, this ILA demonstrates regional cooperation between Fair Oaks Ranch and Bernie to address infrastructure needs and infrastructure challenges and water supply needs. In summary, staff is seeking City Council approval of the ILA, which is included in the agenda packet as part of this item. The Bernie City Council is also going to be considering the same ILA at their next meeting in May. And then lastly, construction of the pipeline is anticipated to start in the summer and complete by the end of year, which is prior to the start of our Ammon Road reconstruction project. And that concludes my presentation, unless the council has any questions.
Questions? No? All good. Any questions from anyone here tonight? Then with that, can I get a motion to approve a resolution authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement with the City of Bernie for the shared pipeline project, expenditure of the required funds, and execution of all applicable documents by the city manager?
So moved.
Jonathan, and motion from Jonathan and a second from Dale. Any other discussion from council?
Just, do we know how soon will we know what the pressure is coming out of that and if it's adequate to?
Probably within the next couple weeks.
All right, with the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion is approved. Thanks, Grant.
Thank you, council.
And our last consideration item tonight is the consideration and possible action approving a resolution adopting the 2026 strategic plan. Scott?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Scott Hughesengay, City Manager. It's my great pleasure to present to you the final proposed draft for the 2026 strategic plan. And for reference, this item starts on page 30 and the presentation starts on page 44. So, we did it. We're at the finish line of our strategic plan process. We did have an accelerated time frame on this whole package from basically mid-December through tonight to refresh our plan for the next 5 years. You've heard several updates along the way already from Assistant City Manager Jim Williams. So my job tonight is to help us get this across the finish line. So I'll give a quick project update. I do want to summarize the community engagement process and results as part of this process. I will briefly review the strategic framework that is proposed tonight. Again, you have seen it several times already. And we'll cover next steps and of course, at the end, recommend adoption of the plan. As I mentioned, we quickly moved through the 5 phases from initiation through which is the recommended adoption of the plan. Our resident engagement piece included open houses, held a stakeholder meeting, internal employee meetings, as well as the citizen surveys, which I'll talk about in a second. And of course, we had appointed a steering committee whose job it was to encapsulate all of that feedback and provide the draft and translate that input into the priorities, goals, and objectives that are before you tonight. And again, that brings us to the final draft that was submitted for your review and recommended adoption. So before I get to the final draft, I do want to touch upon the community engagement that was a part of the process. Again, we held open houses, stakeholder meetings, the aforementioned employee focus groups, et cetera. And you're all familiar with as part of that process. We also conducted 3 online resident surveys that moved in detail from the first survey was more of a high-level vision to help us get started on the draft to more specific feedback as we went through the process. And overall, we received individual responses from 440 participants we had on the last one to as many as 505 participants we had on the first survey. Between the 3 surveys combined, we received over 6,600 individual comments. So my thanks to the entire community and the residents who participated. That's again, my experience working in large cities and small, that is a phenomenal response for this type of initiative and our size of community. So thank you everyone who did participate, and there'll be more chances in the future. But I did want to focus here on the third and final questionnaire. Again, we had 440 responses on this last questionnaire, and you can see, on the slide what the top priorities were here. In this last survey, we presented essentially the final draft and asked if this, at the end of the process, was this in line with the vision and objectives that people held throughout the process and the earlier parts of the engagement. Again, the top priorities, probably unsurprisingly, were water infrastructure, public safety, and growth management, themes that we talk about over and over again at this body and in the community. We also put the demographics on there. The age distribution skewed slightly older, which is probably not surprising as well, but again, overall, a phenomenal response. And in the survey, we asked whether residents, we asked 3 questions, but it was encapsulated into whether residents felt informed throughout the process about the strategic plan process and whether the plan aligned with their vision. And as you can see in the charts, the response was overwhelmingly positive on both fronts, that the vast majority of participants felt well or very well informed about the process, and that our final draft either represented well or very well their vision, their intentions, and their objectives for at least the next 5 years of our city. So I'll transition now to the framework itself. Again, you've seen this framework several times, so I'll try to go fast. But I do want to start from the top because it is important to start with where we align the rest of this plan through goals and objectives. But it starts with the vision and mission. And we kept this pretty much the same themes as we've had from our existing strategic plan, but we simplified the vision and mission with the intention that they become memorable and easier to remember and to adopt, because the whole point is for this to set the stage for the rest of the plan. So the vision, which is aspirational, where we want to be, very simply, the ideal place to call home in the Hill Country. And our mission, which is the operational portion of how we get to achieve and what we do to achieve our mission, deliver exceptional public services with pride and responsiveness. In the final draft, we also incorporated our values of community collaboration and ownership, which, as we talked about previously, was developed specifically by our employer staff, and I'm, again, very proud of what came out of that process. So we incorporated our community and city values into the plan as well. And as you've heard before, the plan is encompassed around 6 priorities, including a new focus on community engagement. And just to reiterate, these priorities are not ranked, and they're effectively co-equals in the plan. So being listed first or last or in the middle is not necessarily indicative of the order or overall ranking of each priority. So the remaining slides, they're in your packet. They're also the same as what you see in the draft plan itself. So I will not review each item again, but I'll try to go through them very quickly. I've said to, I think, most of you individually before and to others that in this plan, what I consider as part of this, the final outcome of this plan and the objectives is, I've said there's not a lot of moonshots in this plan. It's very achievable, and that's largely by design. This plan builds on what is already working for us, and based on the feedback that we have, indicates that what we are doing is working. And it adds some targeted additions that I'll go through for the remainder of the presentation. One example of those is on this first slide, which is under the financial stewardship priority, and that's evaluating a modern ERP system. The ERP system stands for Enterprise Resource Planning. This is the system that supports virtually all of our internal operations, including finance, HR, utilities, municipal court, and permitting. They all roll up under this umbrella system. Our current system is still supported, but it is getting a little long in the tooth. It's a circa early 2000 system, and we can see in the horizon that end of life is probably coming on that. So what this objective focuses on is beginning planning for a future transition, where either by design or force we have to move to a new system. We want to get that process started early so we can identify our preferred systems, our preferred processes, and begin that planning process early before we're forced into a decision quickly. So it just gets the ball rolling. Our next priority is responsible growth management. There are several objectives in this priority that focus on natural resources, including oak wilt tree programs, conservation incentives. Objective 2.1.3 regarding tree canopy, is intended to track broader trends in overall canopy coverage of the city over time. This particular objective would help us better understand impacts from issues, particularly oak wilt, easy for me to say, drought, development activity, but is not to monitor individual residential trees. There are multiple databases out there that allow cities to track the overall tree coverage of the city, but it's on a macro level. So the idea behind this is to identify hot spots in the city, particularly oak wilt. That's as you know, the main driver of loss of tree canopy in this region. Also, under responsible growth management, we tend to look at additional conservation education and evaluating the drought contingency plan. Goal 2.2 under the same priority is updating the comprehensive plan and the master plans that fall within it. This is a significant endeavor. It's one objective with a very broad scope. But starting with the comprehensive plan, this will guide the next phase of the city's development. And as a preview to council, I think I've talked about this before, but I do plan to incorporate a comprehensive plan update, a full plan update into the next year's budget submittal, and you'll hear more about that in our budget workshops beginning in June. But the intention is to kick off this process with the budget this summer, and then with a full process this fall. Still on the responsible growth management is a goal related to targeted commercial development. This is a new goal based on community feedback. Numerous comments throughout our surveys indicated interest in small-scale again, targeted light commercial uses that could serve residents. This is an objective that has also been discussed with the Municipal Development Board, who is also working on its own strategic plan, and there's potential for a lot of alignment between what MDD is talking about and what the city and the steering committee talked about as far as targeted development and developing amenities that can serve the residents. So this was added as one of the, I guess you could say, new objectives in our strategic plan. The next priority is reliable infrastructure, and these goals within the priority largely continue existing work such as improving asset inventory and replacement planning. In this case, for water infrastructure on the first slide, we have similar goals for wastewater infrastructure, including advancing CIP projects, again, completing asset inventories. And on this slide 16, goal 3.3 is an increasing focus on drainage to complete the inventory that we really just getting started and develop a priority of projects based on that inventory. Our drainage maintenance lead is on board now and been here about a month, I think, and will spearhead the development of that program. Goal 3.4 talks about street infrastructure, including continuing CIP projects, and that also includes beautification of key corridors and entrances in the city along our streets. And for city facilities, the goal is, again, very simple objective, potentially broad scope, is implementing our facilities master plan, which is currently underway, in progress, and potentially developing the recommendations and ultimately the adoption of that plan when that's delivered to you, which I expect in the early fall. Under the public safety priority, the objectives are primarily to maintain staffing and community outreach that has been so successful thus far, especially under Chief Smith's leadership. Goal 4.2 continues the development of fire and EMS services, including a standard of cover plan for the city. And under goal 4.3 for emergency management, we will develop a formal training for staff to support the emergency operations plan, and also to build a continuity of operations plan internally, or COOP is the acronym for that. So that is basically a operational plan in the event of a large-scale outage of some kind. How do we continue the operations internally? So those are the next couple of steps within emergency management as proposed. Moving on to the operational excellence priority. One of the goals that I advocated is an increased involvement in the state legislative process, particularly. We can anticipate that local control issues will continue to affect cities as the state legislature convenes next year, and council engagement especially will be important through the adoption of a legislative agenda, as well as increased participation in our local and regional partners. So I think it's very important as we track those initiatives that this community and this council advocates for the priorities and the issues that affect the city of Fair Oaks Ranch. Goal 5.2 is to continue improving transparency and digital access of our platforms. And the next goal is to establish a structured IT replacement program. This would be similar to how we manage our infrastructure maintenance and our vehicle replacement programs from our hard infrastructure, if you will, and do the same thing for our IT infrastructure so that we can have an ongoing sustainable budget while maintaining our core IT resources on a continual basis, and just work that into a long-term plan with annual budget allocations like we do our other critical infrastructure. The next few slides under operational excellence deal with workforce and risk. This includes objectives that focus on staff development and performance management on this slide. We want to establish a more formal risk management framework, including a revised policy with regular reviews. And it also includes a specific focus on safety and maintaining a safe workplace and a strong culture of safety. This includes regular policy updates, training, establishing a formal safety coordinator role, which I think we talked about at our last workshop. That's a high priority of mine, and I intend to include that role, whether it's internal or external, into the budget process as well. So we have a dedicated resource to facilitate all of our safety training, tracking, monitoring, and education citywide. The last section is the new priority of community engagement. This includes expanding participation, of course, across multiple channels and developing a repeatable resident satisfaction survey that we could use to track all levels of service satisfaction over time. If we did this through a statistically valid measure, that would likely require some budget resources to hire a firm that could do that on a statistically sampling basis. I haven't decided the timing on that. I'm open to suggestions on that, but this is one I think while our online surveys and our micro polls are great, I think the data we could get through a sampled survey would be invaluable in tracking how the entire community feels about all of our services over time. And I think this is the last goal under community engagement. The first objective here is to launch a Citizen Leadership Academy to inform and potentially recruit the current and next generation of civic leaders to our community through a coordinated, I don't think that's me. Where was I? Citizen leadership, right? To have basically a multi-week course that would be open to residents to obviously learn more about the city. Again, in my experience in other cities, that you can get a great crop of new volunteers and leaders from such an initiative as well. And finally, we want to focus on more effective communication methods, particularly in the digital realm, but and also including more video and interactive content. And the objective here is to focus more on quality over the quantity of output to have our message span further and, of course, engage and more directly impact the people who are processing our content. So yes, that is the short version. But as I mentioned previously, I said there are not a lot of moonshots in this plan, but it is still a very robust, very ambitious plan with a lot to cover, even in a 5-year time frame. But the next steps are first for the City Council to adopt this plan tonight as recommended. Pending that and assuming approval, staff will develop work plans and budgets where applicable over the summer to support these goals and objectives after the budget is adopted. And at that point, we intend to begin formal quarterly updates beginning this fall as we make progress through the objectives that we have identified as the top priorities are the first ones we accomplish. And of course, we'll have every opportunity to update the plan as needed, which we've done every year since we started the strategic planning process several years ago. So with that, I think, I do recommend approval of the resolution adopting the plan. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Any quick questions from council?
Just a quick one. You mentioned quarterly, looking at it quarterly with a report.
Yes.
From your perspective, what's the time period that we would do, that a full review would be done? Is there something on the calendar, we're gonna do this annually?
Yeah, I mean, we could make changes anytime. So if there's something that jumps out at us at those quarterly updates, we could certainly amend it then. But at least annually, I think directly to your question, this is the time frame to do it. As ideally, tonight we're doing the strategic plan and the 5-year financial plan at the same time. Henceforth, the idea of the strategic plan would be a month or two prior than the 5-year financial plan, then the budget. That's our circle of life. But the intent is, yeah, full annual updates with quarterly incremental updates.
All plans are great, but if they're not reviewed because it's on the calendar, it often we don't.
Fully agree.
The tree canopy software, I know that me and you have seen it, like, we know what it does, we know how it works, but council hasn't seen it. Can we get a workshop on it, and the residents haven't seen it as well? Can we get a workshop on it before we fully implement something so that all questions can be answered and we don't have like a flock rollout kind of scenario?
We absolutely can, and we don't even have a specific software or database identified at this point in time. There are several options out there, including there's a free one that's, I'm doing a little bit of research, called the National Land Cover Database, that's available online and open, that provides some data. It's not always as specific as we like, and there are some paid versions as well. So yes, to answer your question, we can absolutely get that rollout, but the first step in that work plan will be identifying our needs and identifying the recommended database and/or software to use.
Budget's coming up.
It is.
Chris, did you still have comments? Yes. Okay.
Chris Depke, a 33-year resident. Actually, I was going to assume you're going to approve the plan, and so my comments are really directed at what happens after the plan is approved. And first, I would like to recommend that I encourage you and the city staff to process, as this process continues, to work and identify several work steps that implement the objectives and the goals. And the first would be to objective 2.1.4, which is to evaluate the residential water conservation initiatives. And I would like to suggest that we add rainwater harvesting systems and a possible rebate program to encourage conservation, that we add water waste landscaping, such as xeriscaping and rain gardens, to beneficially use the rainwater instead of wasting it, to add irrigation checkups or consultations, permeable ground cover, and even pool cover incentives. Austin, Saws, San Marcos, Bernie, Pflugerville, Sunset Valley all have specific rebate programs, and Buda, Cedar Park, Horseshoe Bay, Kerr County, New Braunfels, and Round Rock offer water conservation incentives. My second ad would be to expand the public water conservation education objective by creating a water conservation committee of volunteers, such as the Parkway Beautification Committee. And an alternative would be to use the Forward Project team that has been talked by Steve Brown. Another use of these volunteers could be to provide input and guidelines for water use during the drought contingency plan evaluation that's identified in Objective 216. And my final comment is to both conserve and encourage water conservation efforts by installing a rainwater harvesting system on at least one of the city facilities. Collecting the rainwater from just City Hall would on average be 113,000 gallons a year, which would be more than enough to irrigate a beautified Parkway median and other city properties. This would be also a tool to educate residents in support of Objective 2.1.5, and I believe the facilities master plan could and should include this. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you for being here tonight and your comments. Any other questions from council? Any questions from anyone here tonight? Can I get a motion to approve a resolution adopting the 2026 strategic plan?
So moved.
From Keith, and a
Second.
second? Jonathan? Any other discussion from council? I have a quick comment. So part of it brought up that I'm really excited about this. We've worked to get a planning process really established that not only supports our budget, but supports the operations of what we want as part of our city. And this really is we've had it, we've worked it, the strategic plan we had before had goals and priorities tied to it. And we were starting to work those off, so we were whittling it down. But now having this strategic plan put in place really gives us that starting point. Now as we go through, this becomes the first step, really, I view, of the budgeting process. It's identifying the goals and objectives for that 5th year out. So what you mentioned, we'll finish this year, 26 will be finished. And when we come back at this point next year, we'll be working on the next 5th year out. And so really going through and seeing what we accomplished, some of the things we may have to adjust. Maybe we didn't get everything accomplished in the year that we wanted, but it really provides that good planning process for us as we enter into the budgeting process. So, then we go into 5-year plan, and then we go into pull out the first year, we develop our budget. I don't know, I just think it's where we need to be. So thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
With the motion on the table, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is approved.
Thank you very much.
Good work, Scott.
And not just Scott, Jim Williams and everybody who contributed, and to the citizens that contributed.
With that, we'll move on to our next item. And with council's approval, I would like to take the first report, which is our quarterly investment report and financial update, and move that to this point now. The reason we have an individual here that's going to speak as part of it, but also Summer stated that some of the information that's in this report will be beneficial for us in the budget calendar and our 5-year financial update. So with that, we'll go on. We'll start with item 10, which is our quarterly investment report and financial update for the quarter that ended March 31st.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Council. For the record, I'm Summer Fleming, Director of Finance. And as you mentioned, I am presenting the quarterly investment report and financial update as of March 31st. So the presentation begins on page 123 of your agenda packet. And I'll begin with a brief update on our investment program and then introduce our investment advisor, Jamie Hobbs from Valley View Consulting, who will walk through the new investment report format. And then after that, I'll transition into the city's quarterly financial update. So before getting into the investment report itself, I want to briefly highlight some progress we've made this quarter to strengthen the city's investment program. So first, we engaged Valley View Consulting as our investment officer, and we recently updated the investment policy to better align with best practices. We also enhanced our quarterly reporting to provide more transparency and clearer insight into the portfolio, and you'll hear more about that from Jamie. From a strategy standpoint, we worked with Valley View to develop a cash flow analysis to better define our liquidity needs. We've evaluated some market options, including CDs across multiple maturities, and we've benchmarked rates against investment pools in U.S. Treasuries. So while no new transactions were executed during this reporting quarter, these efforts lay the groundwork for a more diversified and actively managed portfolio moving forward. But at this point, I'd like to introduce Jamie Hobbs with Valley View Consulting, and she'll walk through the new quarterly investment report, which begins on page 141 of the packet.
Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. For the record, my name is Jamie Hobbs, and I'm with Valley View Consulting. We'll be going through this quarterly report. Oh, you don't have the slides, okay. Okay, so we'll be going through the quarterly report, beginning on page 1. The portfolio ended the March 31st time period with $35,148,442. That was a decrease of about $1.66 million from the prior quarter, very much in line with the normal pattern of receipts in the December quarter and then starting to pay down as you move through the rest of the fiscal year. Your quarterly portfolio yield, average yield was 3.69% compared to 3.85 the previous quarter. Do I need to give you guys a second to find it? Okay. So the average quarterly yield was 3.69% compared to the prior quarter of 3.85. That was to be expected, seeing the decline. There was a 25 basis point rate drop initiated by the FOMC in December, and so that worked through this first March quarter. Quarterly interest income was $327,567 for a year-to-date total of about $660,000. What we do next is we normally give just a quick little economic overview of what we're seeing right now. The FOMC met April 28th and 29th and held the Fed funds target at 3.5 to 3.75. What the market is anticipating is very flat rates through mid-2027. There are a lot of changes that are going to be happening at the FOMC here shortly. Chair Powell's term ends May 15th. Kevin Warsh has been nominated and gone through the first steps of approval and confirmation, and the full Senate confirmation is expected to be done next week for his term to start when Chair Powell's is done on the 15th. Chair Powell will stay on as a governor. His commentary has been that the Fed has been under attack for its independence, and so they're intended to have monetary policy done without political influences. So he has felt it, at least publicly with his comments, to state that he wants to stay around to try to help maintain that independence. Mr. Warsh has been a governor in the past. He was there during 2008, during some of the financial crisis time periods. The foresight on him is that he's showing signs of being less communicative, but still very transparent. Kind of lending back towards Greenspan era is what they're saying, to where there's going to be more of an element of surprise when they have their meetings to keep the markets honest. Because with the different summary projections and things and the different commentary and meetings that they do, it's moved the markets before they have actually made decisions. So that's where we see, at least from his comments through the confirmations, what he's kind of leaned towards. The other thing that's really affecting everything right now is just the Iran conflict. It continues to have effects on the financial markets, oil costs, and so we'll continue to monitor that and make suggestions as we see fit for the city and for investments moving forward. The next page in your packet is an investment holdings listing. This is a snapshot of where the funds were held on March 31st. You had your Frost operating account and then 3 different pools that were being utilized to hold the funds. The next page shows the portfolio composition. It shows your distribution by maturity and then also the total portfolio as it's grown. We had information back to September 2019, and so we've graphed that for you to see a very normal process of, again, receipts in the December quarter and then the spend down through the remainder of the fiscal year. So a very common pattern for our governmental entities. The next report is a book and market value comparison. This is something the Public Funds Investment Act wants to see in reports. This is a comparison quarter over quarter of where the increases and decreases occurred in the funds. It's also, at this point in time, with the investments that you have, there is no difference between the book value and the market value. You have no securities currently, so until there were securities in the portfolio, would there be a difference between these numbers? So you'll see the same thing on both sides. But again, it reflects the change in value of the portfolio of the decrease of $1.66 million. And then the last report that'll be included going forward is an allocations page. And this, again, is quarter over quarter, and it shows where each of the investments that are held, how those funds are allocated to the different funds that you utilize, your operating funds, your utility funds, project funds, and how those are broken out between those different funds and pots of money. Are there any questions for me?
All good?
I do have a question about investment choices.
Yes, sir.
It's on. So, may not be close enough. I'll just hold it. So on the institution, on the CD investments that we could consider for the city, what are the FDIC insurance limits on those?
So what happens is, we're not going out and just buying the $250,000 limits. We're buying CDs that are larger, but they are collateralized. So the Public Funds Investment Act requires that those investments be collateralized. So when we go to different banks that are looking for public funds, they're either providing marketable securities as collateral, they're providing letters of credit through the Federal Home Loan Banks, or there's a program where they actually do provide 100% FDIC coverage. It's called a spread program. It's through the IntraFi network, and you have a relationship with Bank A, and that's where your relationship is. But behind the scenes, there's a network of banks that they spread those funds between so that you get less than $250,000 increments with each of those banks to provide that FDIC coverage.
Okay. Would it be safe to assume on those collateralized CDs that those would be collateralized with investment-grade securities?
Yeah, whatever is allowed within the Public Funds Investment Act. So
Okay.
there are specific items, mostly governmental type securities. You can use municipalities, but it is limited. And the city always has the ability to decline any securities that a bank may provide as a collateral piece.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Good? Still good? Anybody else here have any questions? All right.
Well, thank you. We look forward to partnering with the city, and thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Jamie. I do appreciate that Jamie was able to come and kind of introduce the firm to you and the new look of our investment report. I know right now it might look a little boring, but as we start diversifying the portfolio, I think some of the added graphs and charts will become more valuable. So I will now move into the financial update, starting with a few key highlights. Overall, the general fund remains in a strong financial position. We're currently projecting about a $142,000 surplus, meaning revenues are coming in higher than expenditures, and that difference will be added to the fund balance, bringing the total to approximately $8.8 million at year end. On the revenue side, revenues are projected to outperform budget. Sales tax is coming in about 9% above budget. Property tax collections are on track. We're projecting just a small increase to budget on that. On the expenditure side, spending is generally in line with budget. We are projecting a slight overage in personnel offset by savings in other categories. But most importantly, we're maintaining our reserves in compliance with policy, and we're ending with approximately $3.1 million in unassigned fund balance, which provides flexibility for future needs. The utilities also remain stable. Revenues are meeting expectations, and we're continuing long-term planning efforts for the utility. But I'll start with the governmental funds, which represent the city's tax-supported operations. That includes the general fund, capital and strategic projects fund. We have special revenue funds, our debt service fund, and the equipment replacement fund. But of course, I'll focus mainly on the general fund. So overall, general fund revenues, as mentioned, are performing well, projected to exceed budget by almost $263,000. Those key drivers include property tax, sales tax, which continues to perform strongly. Franchise fees and interest earnings are both trending above expectations, and these gains are partially offset by lower than expected court fines, but we continue to project those court fines conservatively. Looking in more detail on the revenues, so property tax remains our largest and most stable revenue source in the general fund. We've collected a little over 94% of the current levy, and we're projecting a modest surplus of about $84,000. That's roughly 1.2% above budget. But you can see that collection trends remain consistent with prior years. Again, sales tax is performing well. We're currently projecting an increase of about $176,000 over our budget. That's almost 9% growth year over year. While we've averaged closer to 13% so far this fiscal year, we do expect that to taper off. And so given how sensitive sales tax is to economic conditions, we continue to take a conservative approach in our projections. On the development side, we've issued 13 new residential home permits through the first half of the fiscal year, which is in line with our budget expectations. And total permit revenues are tracking in line with budget. Looking at expenditures, total spending is projected to come in slightly under budget overall. In this slide, a positive variance means under budget, whereas a negative variance is over budget. So personnel costs are trending above budget due to stronger staffing levels than originally budgeted. We've had fewer and shorter vacancies throughout the year, along with the updated compensation plan that was implemented during the fiscal year. As discussed during the budget process, these increases were expected to be offset by savings in other expenditure categories, and that has held true year to date. So in total, the general fund is projected to add $142,000 to fund balance and end the year at approximately $8.8 million. Now that total includes court and public safety restricted funds. We have just over $106,000 in the tree mitigation fund. We have the fully funded emergency reserve at 4 months of operating expenditures and fully funded budget stabilization reserve at 2 months of expenditures. In addition, we're projecting about $3.1 million in that unassigned fund balance, which will provide flexibility for one-time needs and strategic priorities, and we'll talk about that during the 5-year financial plan workshop. The other governmental funds, they support our capital projects, equipment replacement, debt service, and those court special revenues. But all the fund balances are trending as expected. We have planned use of fund balance for road projects in that bond capital fund, and then drainage and strategic projects are in the other capital fund. So the next section shifts from tax-supported operations to the city's utility funds, which are supported through user rates and fees. These funds include the water and wastewater operations, our utility capital and impact fee funds, and the utilities equipment replacement fund. Total utility revenues are projected to exceed budget by about $171,000. That's driven primarily by stronger wastewater revenues. The water operating revenues are trending below budget due to the discontinuation of a water contract with the golf course, but this is being offset by higher than expected interest earnings. On the expenditure side, personnel costs are projected slightly above budget, consistent with the general fund. Capital projects are generally tracking with budget, with a $650,000 reduction tied to the Kojak Circle manhole project that is now being completed by a developer. So this slide walks through how we calculate operating performance and evaluate rate sufficiency. So starting at the top, we have total operating revenues, and from that we subtract those restricted revenues like impact fees and debt service fees, since those can only be used for specific purposes and aren't available for our day-to-day operations. That gets us to the available revenues for operations. We then compare that to our operating expenses, which gives us our operating income before depreciation. So that's essentially our cash-based operating performance. As you can see, that number is positive, meaning the utility is covering its day-to-day costs. Next, we factor in depreciation. That represents the long-term wear and tear on our infrastructure. And when we include that, we arrive at operating income after depreciation, which is our rate sufficiency indicator. You'll notice that number is negative. Depreciation is a non-cash expense, and we don't rely solely on rates to fund all of our capital needs. We already set aside reserves for vehicle and equipment replacement, and our larger infrastructure is funded through debt supported by that separate debt service fee, along with impact fees and the capital reserve fee for funding smaller projects. So this metric helps show the full cost of service, but it's only one part of our broader funding strategy. And so overall, net position is projected at approximately $21 million. That's an increase of about $1.2 million for the utility. As shown here, the majority is invested in capital assets and infrastructure, with the remainder supporting the utility's operating reserve, capital project reserves, debt service, and planned equipment replacement. But we'll continue to monitor these trends and incorporate them into the upcoming budget and the 5-year financial plan. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Good?
One quick question, Summer.
Yes.
What do you think's attributing to our sales tax increase? Is that more revenue just from retail customers in the city, or is it coming from the golf club, or do we know?
I don't get that report monthly. We usually get that annually, but I would suspect it's due to online sales.
More online sales? Yeah. Okay, that's good.
I know.
Emily's fault.
We probably have a lot of contributors to the Amazon sales.
No, that's good. And I'm glad to see it go up.
Yeah.
That's great.
Anybody else? Questions from anyone here tonight? Okay. You just want to carry on to the workshop?
Sure.
So we have 2 workshop items tonight. Summer has both of them. And the first one is first going to cover the budget calendar, what we're going to do for the rest of the year.
Yes. So it is the calendar for the fiscal year 26-27 budget process, and I'll highlight a few key dates. So this calendar outlines the sequence of steps over the next several months, from our initial planning through the workshops and ultimately adoption of the budget and tax rate in September. We're beginning tonight, May 7th, with the 5-year financial plan workshop, which sets the baseline assumptions that will carry into the budget. And from there, we move into a series of workshops where each major area of the budget is presented in detail. So on June 4th, we'll cover Public Works and Public Safety, the 2 largest departments. And then on June 18, we'll go through all the administrative departments, such as HR, Finance, IT, Communications, and others. On July 2nd, we'll focus on the utility funds and the capital improvement plan. And then at the end of July and August, the focus shifts to the broader budget overviews, where we bring all the components together. So as we get into August, the process becomes more formal, because on August 6th, the calculated tax rate will be presented to council, along with the resolution to set the maximum tax rate that council will consider for fiscal year 26-27, and will also schedule the public hearing. On August 17th, the proposed budget will officially be filed with the city secretary, and then on August 20th, we'll hold a final overview discussion before adoption. So in September, we move into adoption. September 17th, we plan to hold the public hearing and bring forward the first reading of both the budget and tax rate ordinance. And then on September 22nd, we'll have a special meeting, and we'll have the second and final readings, which is when the budget and tax rate are formally adopted. So overall, the schedule is designed to give council multiple opportunities to review, ask questions, and provide direction along the way. So by the time we get to adoption, there aren't any surprises. But with that, I welcome any feedback council may have on the overall timeline.
All good?
All good.
Anybody else? Okay. We're going to roll right into the 5-year financial plan.
Yes. Okay. So this is the 5-year financial plan for fiscal years 2027 through 2031. And this is a workshop. So our goal is to walk through the assumptions behind the plan, get your feedback before we bring it back in June for formal adoption. But the plan reflects the city's current financial management policies, the known cost drivers, and we've taken a conservative approach to forecasting over the next 5 years. The presentation begins on page 108 of the agenda packet. But this plan is really about giving us a long-term roadmap. It helps us maintain financial stability, align decisions with our strategic priorities, and anticipate future challenges before they become issues. It also supports transparency for council and the public, and it ensures that we're maintaining healthy reserves. So overall, it's a tool to make more informed, proactive decisions. I'll start with the governmental funds. This plan reflects a shift from multiple scenarios to a single policy-aligned approach based on how we operate today. So it incorporates the known cost drivers like personnel, inflation, and debt. It assumes we'll continue adjusting the tax rate as needed to support operations and maintain reserves. And then you'll also see that unassigned fund balance is used strategically for one-time costs, things like drainage projects, capital purchases, and smoothing out the increases we're seeing in the fire and EMS contract. So the key assumptions driving the plan, on the revenue side, we have property values growing about 5% annually, and we have new development adding $150,000 in property tax revenue each year. We have sales tax growth starting around 7% and then tapering down to about 5%. Other revenues grow modestly at 1.5%, and we've kept interest earnings stable. On the expenditure side, we have wages increasing 4.5% annually with no additional staffing. Medical benefits, we have increasing 5% annually. We've included some inflationary increases between 2 to 5% depending on the category. And we also continue funding our vehicle and equipment replacement program, and we include $150,000 annually for strategic initiatives. So these are the assumptions that are in the current plan. The next couple of slides take a step back and look at the big picture. So first we'll see where resources are going, and then how those revenues, expenditures, and reserves trend over the 5-year period. But this slide shows where our resources are allocated. Public safety in orange continues to represent the largest share of expenditures, followed by public works and general government. The mix remains relatively consistent over the 5-year period as seen in the chart on the right. The green portion represents capital outlay. It varies year to year with a noticeable increase in FY28, and that's tied to the major roadway reconstruction projects. And then this slide shows how revenues, expenditures, and reserves trend over the 5-year planning period. So starting on the left, expenditures are expected to grow faster than revenues due to these known cost pressures. And the plan addresses that through tax rate adjustments each year while remaining below the voter approval rate. And we're using unassigned fund balance to cover those temporary gaps during this period. On the right, reserve levels are shown relative to operating expenditures. So by FY 2031, the remaining unassigned fund balance is fully utilized, and the model reflects a limited use of the budget stabilization reserve, that's in orange, but we're still preserving the city's emergency reserve in accordance with policy. So it's important to note that this model, it's intentionally conservative. As I mentioned, the plan assumes about $150,000 in property tax revenue from new property, which is consistent with our recent trends. So this plan does not yet incorporate the full taxable value expected from the city's newest developments as those homes are completed and added to the tax roll. The model also incorporates those near-term cost pressures, including the significant increases in the fire and EMS contract during the early years of the plan. One important note is that those sharp increases level out over time. So by FY 2031, and beyond, the contract returns to more typical annual increases that are between 3 to 4%. This plan also does not utilize any additional tax rate capacity available below the voter approval rate. So under state law, that capacity can allow the property tax revenue growth above the standard 3.5% threshold without triggering an election. Using a portion of that capacity early in the plan, it could reduce reliance on the unassigned fund balance and extend its availability over the longer period, but we did not incorporate that into the model either. But overall, as the additional development value is realized, expenditure growth moderates, and annual budget adjustments are made, the gap between the revenues and expenditures is expected to narrow beyond what is shown in this slide. So looking at the tax impact over the 5-year period, this chart includes both the projected tax rate and the corresponding average tax bill. So from a homeowner's perspective, the average tax bill increases from about $1,876 in the current year to a peak of approximately $2,155 in FY 2030, and then slightly declines to around $2,100 in FY 2031. Again, that change reflects both the planned tax rate adjustments and the assumption that average home values increase by about 5% annually. And for additional detail, you can also reference page 103 of the packet, and that shows the full schedule of estimated tax rates and the corresponding average tax bill over the period. But at this point, I'll pause for questions on the governmental funds portion before I move into the utility fund plan.
Question?
No, I think it's good. I think it's good that we're taking a conservative approach and not build into this plan the new developments yet. I think that's the wise thing to do. And that the other key point I think Summer made was the fact that the fire and EMS contract will level out, so we're not going to see those big increases year to year. It'll start to be more normalized in that 5th year. So I think it's a good approach. It's a good. This is a tool for us to help us as we budget. So I think the plan itself is a good start down that road. Yep.
All good? Dale?
Oh, well, great.
Summer, excuse me, do you have any tracking on the new residential homes, excuse me, that have been moved into year to date?
Are you meaning, do we know how much in new home values we get each year, and if we track that? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying? So we do get that every year with our certified values. It tells us how much in new property value has come online. And we are actually trending about $150,000 of tax revenue from new properties each year. So that's been the last couple years. So we do anticipate that once these new developments start progressing, that it would be more than $150,000 annually.
Anybody else? Questions from anyone here tonight?
Okay. Well, then we'll shift to the utility funds plan. So unlike the governmental funds, the utility operates as an enterprise fund, which means it's intended to be self-supporting. Instead of relying on property taxes, the system is funded by the customers who use it through rates and fees. And those rates and fees are designed to recover the full cost of providing service over time. So the way we structure our rates reflects that. We have a base charge that helps cover fixed costs of running the system, things like staffing, billing, meters, system availability, and then volumetric charges that vary based on usage, such as water production, treatment, and delivery. So this plan builds on that structure. It includes a rate adjustment to better align revenues with the cost of service over the 5-year period. But the key assumptions in the utility funds plan include a $5.30 per month increase to the water base rate in FY '28. This is intended to better align the base rate with the fixed costs of operating the system, especially since that rate has not changed since 2017. We have a 5% increase in volumetric rates. Wastewater rates remain unchanged with a projected 1.5% annual increase. We have connection growth increasing approximately 1.5% to 2% annually. And we have assumed a decline in drought surcharge revenues. So those revenues vary year to year based on weather and usage restrictions. So the plan assumes a more normalized level rather than relying on higher drought-driven collections. On the expenditure assumptions, we have the same wage increase, 4.5% annually with no additional staffing, the medical benefits increasing 5%, and then we have those same inflationary increases from 2 to 5% depending on the category. In the utilities assumptions, we have no new major capital projects included. We continue funding for the vehicle and equipment replacement, and we've included $150,000 annually for well pump replacements as needed. But overall, these assumptions reflect, again, a conservative approach. So next I'll walk through the operating performance and how we evaluate the utility fund. Now this slide focuses on how we look at operating performance. The operating revenues here, they exclude those restricted revenues like impact fees and debt service fees. And the operating expenses include that ongoing funding for vehicle and equipment replacement, but it excludes depreciation since that's the non-cash expense. As I mentioned in the quarterly report, depreciation is still important because it represents the annual cost of using the system's infrastructure, but we don't really fund that, through rates in a single year. Instead, the replacement of major infrastructure is funded separately through our debt fee, impact fees, or capital reserve fees. So while depreciation shows the full cost of the system on paper, our funding approach spreads those costs out and aligns them with the long-term financing rather than current year operating revenues. So this chart just gives us a clearer view of how the cost of operations compares to our available revenues. You can see revenues and expenses by each utility. Both the water and wastewater show steady growth over time. Expenses, again, are increasing due to personnel, inflation, and maintenance needs. And the planned rate adjustment helps bring revenues closer to expenditures. The slide shows the projected net position of the utility over the 5-year period. So unlike governmental funds, which focus primarily on annual revenues, expenditures, and fund balance, net position is a broader long-term measure of utility's overall financial position because it includes not only reserves and available resources, but it also includes the city's investment in the utility infrastructure, such as all the water and wastewater systems. And so net position is projected to continue increasing over the 5-year period, reflecting that continued investment in our infrastructure, ongoing capital improvements, and you can see stable overall utility operations. The chart also shows how net position is allocated across the categories. The largest part is our investment in capital assets. We still have our operating reserves, a debt service reserve, funds for utility capital projects, and our equipment replacement funding. But overall, the utility fund plan reflects a stable long-term financial position while continuing to support our infrastructure investment and the operational needs. So I'll pause here for any questions on the utility fund plan.
Good?
Good. Yep.
But overall tonight, since it is a workshop, we are looking for direction on the plan, specifically confirmation or any adjustments to the assumptions that we've included for both the governmental funds and the utility funds. And then based on your feedback, we would refine the plan with any recommendations and incorporate it into the full report and then bring that back at the next council meeting for formal adoption via resolution.
Anything? I don't know, you gave us the budget update prior to this, and as we went through it, I would assume that the assumptions that we've used in previous years are pretty online with what we've experienced. And so I think y'all have done a great job in really researching it enough and I know we go conservative, I agree with the approach. So I wouldn't even
Okay.
rely on your expertise.
Okay.
So I think,
Thank you. Well, then at the next meeting, we will bring back the full report with the resolution for your consideration. All right. Thank you.
thanks, Summer, great job.
Thank you.
Unless you'd like to stay up there and,
Thank
you're done?
Yes.
That completes the workshops that we had on the agenda tonight. We do still have one report left. Amanda, our Deputy City Secretary, is going to talk to us about boards, committees, and commissions for this year.
Yes, and I'm not going to talk numbers. So, again, good evening, Mayor and Council. Amanda Valdez, Deputy City Secretary. This report can be found on page 189 of your agenda packet and will be a quick review of the annual process to fill upcoming vacancies due to expiring terms on our city's appointed bodies. So on the screen is a schedule of the process, and tomorrow morning, May 8th, our office will email incumbents whose terms expire in September, asking for their willingness to continue serving in their current position. We have also published those details on our website, and in partnership with our communications department, which is Casey right here, we'll continuously notify our residents of vacancies through social media posts and e-newsletters during the application period, which ends on July 30th. At the August 6th regular meeting, City Council will consider whether to reappoint incumbents and determine a method for appointments to any remaining positions. On that evening, we'll also seek direction to schedule interviews if necessary, and those will need to be scheduled on or before September 17th, when council will formally appoint and/or reappoint members by resolution before terms begin on October 1st. I'm going to go over just a very brief overview of the possible vacancies due to expiring terms. So the Building Codes Board of Appeals has 3 potential vacancies. That's 2 regular members and 1 alternate. The CIAC committee, or the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee, excuse me, has 3 potential vacancies due to expiring terms. This board does have to have 5 members meet an industry requirement of being in real estate development or the building industries. The 3 positions do not affect that requirement, although one of the members does have that requirement. They're the 6th member, so it wouldn't affect that requirement for the CIAC. Moving on to the MDD Board of Directors, there are 3 positions that will expire in September. This board also has a requirement that no more than 2 directors be council members and no more than 1 director be a 4HOP board member, and none of the expiring positions will affect that requirement. For the Planning and Zoning Commission, there will be 4 terms that are expiring at the end of September. On the Transportation Safety Advisory Committee, there are also 4 potential vacancies. And then you'll notice there's a difference from your packet here, but again, because I hate numbers, I put 0 expiring terms rather than 4. So there's actually 3 regular and 1 alternate member position that will be expiring this year. That comes to a total of 21 possible open positions or terms that are expiring. We don't have any current vacancies, and I am happy to answer any questions about the process that you may have.
Specifically, where will the, located for people who are
Right, so if you go to our website, there is a committees page, and then it comes down even to individual committees. You can go to the BOA, but it's listed on the committee's webpage. It's listed on each committee page, and then we will work to put that on our front page as well, so that you can easily access it. It'll be on the website tomorrow.
And if anybody has questions, I mean, they can call the front desk at City Hall.
Absolutely, and ask for the City Secretary's Department. I'm happy to answer questions for anybody.
Thanks, Amanda.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes.
So, at what point do we, the way I understood it in the meeting with Scott is there's a mechanism that you interview all of the board members, and you decide that at some point. Like, is this the point that you decide to do that, or if you decide to?
So if we go back to the schedule, so we'll send an email out to everyone asking whether they want to continue to serve in their position or not. So the application deadline for new members or new applicants and the incumbents is July 30th. So we'll give them until that time to apply. And then and I want to note too that I will be providing some updates to you all. We'll do some reports during the council meeting, but I'll also keep you up to date. I plan to send you some more detailed information via email tomorrow, just so that you're aware of it. So at the August 6th council meeting, we'll bring back a report saying, these are the positions that are expiring, these are the people who want to continue serving, and this is how many new applicants we have and for what boards or committees that they are applying for. At that point, you we have had instances in the past where we don't have interviews. It was maybe the first year after we started this process where all of the incumbents said, hey, we wanted to continue serving. And so we didn't have interviews. The first year, we interviewed even people who were incumbents. It's up to council to decide at the August 6th meeting. Do you want to interview everybody all over again or just the new applicants? That's going to be completely up to council. But we usually wait until after the application period to make that decision. But I mean, if you all want to provide some feedback and maybe make decisions like that before, I mean, I'm happy to.
Hope that was the question.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait, one thing, when we do get, I forget if this information comes when we get the back or the data on incumbents who want to stay on.
Mm-hmm.
If we get that information on August 6th, will it also include, or does it also include how long they've been in that position?
I can absolutely provide
Okay.
that to you.
Yeah.
And the information that I was going to send out to you tomorrow, it's a spreadsheet, and it shows the date of their original appointment, and it shows the term that they are in now. So I will provide that to you so you can have all that information.
Good question. Anybody else? Anybody else here tonight? Yes, sir.
I was just wondering if the Parkway Beautification Committee fits into this process.
It was an ad hoc committee.
That's the difference.
Right, the application for one of these boards is for open meetings, and so there's requirements to do certain trainings, which is why it wasn't included on this.
Good question. All right. Anybody else? Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you.
Well, that completes all the items that we had on the agenda. Does any council member have any announcements that they would like to make?
Yes.
You got it.
So after 9 years of being a Rotarian with the Fair Oaks Ranch Rotary Club, our mayor won the raffle, which is which is Joker's Wild. So you buy tickets, and then there's a game that you play if you get the winning ticket. The mayor did get the winning ticket in that, but in a state of delirious entitlement, I thought that I had the winning ticket, and I charged ahead and tried to donate the winning ticket that I thought I had to the robotics club that did the presentation. I felt bad after it, and the mayor did make the comment. He said, you know, I put my ticket on the table and somebody threw it away, so nobody's ever even going to know that I won it. So I just want to announce that the mayor did actually pull the winning ticket at that meeting.
Okay. In all true fairness, the situation did happen like that. I did have an opportunity that I could have stopped Jonathan. But at this, the presentation was the robotics club from Champion High School. Phenomenal presentation about their competition and what they go through. And Jonathan marched forward and handed his ticket to them to draw for the prize. And there was no way I was going to stop that. So it did work out very well. All right, anybody else? All right, I got a couple announcements. As you may have seen, fawning season has begun across the city. You may find newborn fawns hiding in your yard in the tall grass, behind air conditionings, on porches. The point is, if you see a fawn alone, it is exactly where it needs to be. Please leave it alone, and please do not try to rescue it. The fawn is not abandoned. Mothers leave their fawns in these spots. They have the natural camouflage, and the instinct of the fawn is to remain in that position and to remain still and quiet. Mom returns periodically to feed the fawn. Also during this time period, please be on alert for deer crossing the road. Fawns are the moms are fairly active moving around. If you see a deer crossing the road, the chances are there are others following. Just slow down, let the deer cross the road. And I don't know if you've seen the fawns, but they get fairly active. They're like puppies out running around. And once they get moving, so please be careful and We just don't want to hit the deer. Second announcement, the city municipal election was concluded this past weekend. But the announcement really is residents should be aware that the runoff election for county, state, and federal elections is quickly approaching. Early voting will take place from May 18th through May 22nd, with Election Day being May 26th. So that's only a week and a half from now before early voting starts. If you're a Bexar County voter in the city, well, all Bexar County, there will be a Bexar County election site here in this room. If you live in Kendall or Comal County, you'll have to vote in your respective county locations. This year marks our 250th anniversary for our nation, and Fair Oaks Ranch is marking the occasion with a full week of celebration. Right here in our communities, we honor our nation's independence. We'll kick things off with a parade in the city that'll be on the June 27th. Currently, there are artwork and essay contests that are now going on so that those individuals can be awarded during the week. And the week will conclude on the evening of Saturday, July 4th, with the city's fireworks and laser show at the Fair Oaks Ranch Country Club. Please make plans to be a part of us. Join us for the fireworks show. And a reminder to all that the council meeting that was previously scheduled for May 21st has been canceled, which will be our next council meeting. The reason it was canceled is because early voting will be conducted here in this room. Scott, anything else?
I think you covered it.
Does any council member have anything that they would like added to a future agenda?
Also, yes.
Go ahead.
So we've heard a lot about child safety zones in the past month. I would have a workshop on studying, and I personally have questions of the efficacy of child safety zones. I think that there are enough residents in Fair Oaks that are concerned about it or appear to be concerned about it. We should at least have a conversation about it. Also, during that conversation, Nicole Bishop is our Kendall County District Attorney. She had a unique idea on prevention for these things where, you know, if a predator contacts a child, the parent of that child can hand their phone off to police forces. And they can handle that conversation with the predator and, you know, figure out if there's some intervention method. So we might also look at that. But anyhow, would like to have the workshop about it, just to talk about it and see what we can do.
Okay.
We'll work with the city attorney on those questions.
Anybody else? All right, Amanda, anything I forgot? Missed? Scott, from your? Sure. I have the time is 8:22 and we are adjourned.